Nancy Megan is going to speak again, as is James Clark. He's an attorney at Messerly and Kramer, and he was previously a county prosecutor and three-term member of the Minnesota House of Reps. And Dr. Beth Thompson is on the Minnesota Board of Animal Health. They'll be talking about this issue. Also, could I just ask, could everyone remember to turn their phones off? I'm famous for forgetting to do that. So.
Oh, I forgot.
Morning again. As you mentioned, James Clark and I are going to be presenting, and then Beth will be talking after our presentation is over.
Can you do a little more introduction? Okay. Hi, my name is James Clark, and thank you for mentioning that I'm a former politician. I really I think it was Forbes or one of the magazines came out with a list of least popular professions, and attorney, politician, lobbyist. So I got the trifecta. I have not sold used cars yet, but maybe that might be in my future. I don't know. Can you go back to the first slide for just a second? We haven't conversed here very much. Thank you. That's where I should be right now. The legislature has like 4 weeks left, and it is frantic over there. So if I'm a little out of sorts, it's probably because my mind is there. That's where I should be. That's not how the Capitol looks right now. They're doing a major renovation. It's a $250 million renovation on the Capitol building. So it's all shrouded right now, and actually about 70% of the Capitol is off limits. You can't go in about 70% of the Capitol. I just wanted to give a little bit of a framework on this legislation. It took a long time to pass. And over the years, I've been very, very blessed. I've worked on issues. I represent the Minnesota Twins, and we were successful in building Target Field. I've worked with Canterbury Park on Racino, which is a very, very controversial issue. Last year, we were very thankful to be the lobbying firm for marriage equality. And so I've worked on some really big issues. This issue was equally as emotional, as controversial, as difficult as any of those issues that I just mentioned. And you wouldn't think that. You would think regulation of dog and cat breeders. Why wouldn't that be something that we should do? But there was a whole host of, as I've already mentioned the word emotion, it is very, very emotional. When you're talking about animals, when you're talking about people's livelihood, when you're talking about care and different philosophies of what an animal is to people. Is an animal a member of your family, an extended member of your family, or are animals viewed as a commodity and a way to make a living? And there's a difference there. And to find that common ground and to thread that needle where people on both sides of that spectrum can be comfortable is very, very, very challenging. And so I just wanted to give that background as we move forward. But with that, can we move? Sorry.
I'm going to give you a little bit of the history. As I mentioned in the last talk, I've been doing this for about 25 years. And I was involved in the 1992 Pet Lemon Law. Way back then, we were trying to pass care standards for dog and cat breeders. And it was not successful. Back then, the interest groups were pet supply industry, still the agriculture industry. There were a lot of rescue organizations, shelters, veterinarian citizens involved way back then. So what we were able to pass back in 1992 was called the Pet Lemon Law, which is if you get a sick puppy or kitten from a breeder or pet shop, you have recourse for the cost of the animal in vet bills reimbursed you, or a replacement animal. We were not able to get care standards. The only thing that came out of that was something called best management standards, which is basically, here's some things you should follow. There's no penalties. If you want to do it, you can. But that was all that came out of that. Then in 2007, 2008, so you can see there's a long span in there, I was working on other things, and with my rescue organization, we were getting more and more dogs and cats from bad breeding facilities through our program, and I also tracked USDA breeders to see how many in Minnesota we had. Minnesota is the largest puppy producing state, meaning the largest breeders. Not that we have the most breeders, but we are the largest puppy producing state with over 1,000 dogs and puppies in facilities, 800, 900, 500. So in 2007, 2008, another woman named Kristen and I sat down, pulled together other states' laws, drafted a bill, very prescriptive, got input from Keith from Animal Humane Society, and got a bill introduced. Senator Betzold was the author of that. At the time, he just wanted to get it introduced for conversation, just kind of put it out there to see who came out of the woodwork. Well, a lot. So 2009, 2010, they knew it was going to take an army. Hence, pulled in James. We put together a coalition of rescue shelters, animal control, various organizations, veterinarians, to work on this. We named our coalition Speak Up for Minnesota Dogs and Cats. 2011, 2012. Well, I should go back. We did have some hearings in 2009, 2010, and multiple meetings with stakeholders. And then we went to 2011, 2012. Still meetings, still lobbying, still educating, no hearings for 2 years. We didn't give up. So then we said, okay, there's a lot of opposition. We need to deal with a lot of this opposition. And so through all these meetings, we're dealing with people saying, well, there's no problem. We don't have a problem in Minnesota. We had arguments saying that we already have USDA licensed breeders. Well, many of you know USDA isn't the only organization, or I'm sorry, the only way that a breeder can breed and sell. You've got backyard breeders, you've got breeders selling out of their homes, you've got internet sales. USDA only regulates those who are selling wholesale, meaning to pet shops or other USDA license holders. Also, opposition was it would destroy our livelihood. It's too costly for us to have to pay a fee. But then if you look at breeders who have 50, 100, 1,000 dogs and puppies and that they're selling, $250 a year isn't a lot to pay for a license. They didn't want unreasonable searches in their homes. They thought that having the Board of Animal Health, who we had in the bill as the overseeing agency, coming into their homes would be unreasonable. They'd be searching through their things, which was not true. Number of animals covered. This is huge. We spent a lot of time on the number, how many animals are going to be covered under this law. We started out at 6, our coalition, and as we went through the process of all these meetings and compromises, we had one group come in at 40. We had one group come in at 4. So we had 4, 6, and 40. Well, we all knew collectively, the animal welfare community, that we could not go with 40. That's huge. So we all compromised on 10. So the definition under the breeder law is 10 or more intact breeding adults. We did identify the problem over and over and over. Hundreds and hundreds of pictures of animals, and these are just in Minnesota. These aren't photoshopped, these aren't taken from other states. These are all animals that came out of breeding facilities from either cruelty seizures or from rescues being contacted saying, help us. We want to get rid of some of our breeding dogs. They're too old, they're too sick. We have bankers boxes full. This breeder over here has over 1,000 in her facility. So then we come to 2013, 2014, the Dog and Cat Breeder Regulation Bill. We have amazing authors. We have Senator John Marty and Representative John Lesh. We have a reasonable bill that requires registration, a one-time registration, just so the Board of Animal Health could get a feel for what we had in our state, how many breeders there were. Next year, licensing and inspections kick in. and it's a proactive law. The goal for this law was to prevent costly seizures. And that's where if, say, a Good Samaritan happens upon a facility or they see something, they may report it to the police. The police may do something. So this is what we're trying to do with this law, is make it so the Board of Animal Health goes in before cruelty happens. So rather than somebody seeing it and complaining, now the Board of Animal Health is going to be in there saying, no, this doesn't meet existing law, this doesn't meet the breeder law, you have to fix these things so the animals don't come to the condition of being cruelly treated. Yes?
Can you tell us how many registered, how many breeders in the state of Minnesota actually registered?
With the Board of Animal Health, you mean?
What with your,
I think Beth can answer that when she comes up. We can, but I'll leave it to that. We also wanted, obviously, healthy dogs and cats. That's the goal, is not to have any suffering in these facilities. And of course, happy owners. These two, the cat up in the right, that was a cat breeder in Shakopee, and that was a cruelty case I was actually working on. She had multiple breeding cats in her home, and if you can imagine, they also took the children out of the home, so you can imagine how bad that home was. And we ended up having to remove his eye, and there he is with his first Christmas in his home.
With that, I also, everybody can hear me, right? Okay. A little bit more, just if we could step back just a little bit again. I think everybody knows, but maybe not. Nancy alluded to the fact that she and Chris sat down literally in their, I think in your kitchen or your living room floor, took laws from 15 or 20 states, spread them across the living room floor, and pulled out what they thought were the best pieces from all the different laws. So she is the reason why we have, or the biggest reason why we have it. And I also, when she said, there was a gap between 98 and 2006 or something, she was doing a lot of stuff, including working on the felony animal cruelty law. She was the main driver behind that as well. And then also, I just wanted to thank a few people that are in the room that we didn't right off the bat. I'd personally like to thank Animal Humane Society and Kathy Mock for putting forth and hiring me to be a part of the legislation. And thank you to Animal Humane Society. That was very, very nice. Thank you. And then Ann Olson has been just a tremendous advocate for this law as well through the Speak Up Coalition and animal folks. Is Christine here? Yep, Christine as well, tremendous. And Howard Goldman, I think I saw Howard walking around back there. Yep, thank you, Howard. and Amanda through the animal law section, thank you for your support and your letters. So, and I'm sure I probably have missed some folks, but if you are here, thank you, because it was not an effort that was small by any means. It was a huge effort. It truly was, which sort of fits in nicely to this slide on lobbying. Petitions. Oh my gosh, there was thousands of signatures. I don't know the exact number. Ann, do you have a good total? I don't.
Well, I know our group had about 25,000, or 15, you probably had as well.
Wow, that's just unbelievable. The calls and emails to legislators, I've got to tell you, I had a number, and I'm not saying one because it was probably a dozen legislators tell me that they heard about this issue more than any other issue at the Capitol. And that's when we're talking about building a Viking stadium, when we're talking about, this was the issue that they heard the most about from their constituents.
And they did say, please make them stop.
Which was music to our ears. We did. So social media, again, that was sort of a newer aspect that we brought to it that's very, very critical in lobbying right now. Just absolutely essential. The one-pagers, we put together a number of fact sheets for people on what the law was going to do and what it didn't do. There was a lot of misinformation out there. Capitol Rally, that's where these pictures are from, or at least 3 of these pictures. You can see people on the railing up at the top of the Capitol, or top of the rotunda down here in the lower left. Great group in the rotunda. We have our authors here, Senator John Marty and Representative John Lesh, who were outstanding. Would not have happened without the great champions that they were. Billboards, there were billboards going up 94. I think we had some in St. Paul as well. Meetings with legislators, we had, I would say over the years, hundreds. We had hundreds of meetings with legislators trying to educate them, because that was the biggest piece, was trying to debunk a lot of myth, frankly. That was a big part of it. We had one year we ran into a difficulty because the chair of the Agriculture Committee raised rabbits. And he thought that this law was going to somehow affect rabbit breeding. And we have in the definition clearly it's dogs and cats. Canine is defined, feline is defined. We mentioned it a second time in the law, but he didn't care. He felt that this was going to affect his rabbit breeding, and so that was it. We were shut down. Committee hearings, we probably over the years had dozens. I would say, I think probably got up to dozens. There were a couple of years where we couldn't get any hearings, and that's because the committee chairs didn't want to hear it. And I think we may touch on it a little bit later, but I think now is an okay time to talk about it as well. We were pretty successful in moving the bills through the civil law committees, through the public safety committees, through the local government committees. They were contentious hearings. I remember, Nancy mentioned something about the unreasonable searches provision or concern. I remember having a debate in a civil law committee a number of years ago with a particular legislator, who a number of folks might know his name, Tom Emmer. Tom and I had a little debate about unreasonable searches and seizures and constitutional issues in the civil law committee, so that was sort of funny. But our Waterloo, or our difficult point, was every single year was the Ag Committee in the House or Senate. And I don't want to leave anybody with any impression that it was a partisan issue, because it wasn't. It is a geographic issue. It is, we had a lot of support from legislators in Minneapolis and St. Paul. We had quite a bit of support from suburban legislators. When you get to greater Minnesota, really, 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 really difficult. For some of the reasons that Nancy mentioned earlier, we heard, how many times did we hear slippery slope? or this was a good one too, camel's nose under the tent. We heard that one a lot too. So anyway, and it's very, very difficult. Yeah, it's very, very difficult. And we actually, I remember one meeting, and I hope this is okay if I sort of go off message a little bit. We were in one meeting, and the legislator will remain nameless. Literally said, and he was shaking when he said it to me. And Nancy and I were meeting with him. He said, "James, you've heard of black helicopters? The black helicopters are real, and it's this bill." I am not kidding you. He was dead serious, and I was. Do you remember that meeting? And don't say who it was. Okay, yeah. It was amazing. I couldn't believe it. And he's a pretty rational individual. Black helicopters have to do with there's a theory that there's a secret government out there, and you don't see the helicopters. They come in and they land and they do their dirty work and then they go. Yeah, that's the analogy. Yeah, and there may be black helicopters, but this law is not it. I can assure you. Wait a minute. Let's see, testimony, as you can see down here on the bottom right, we had wonderful people come in and testify. I guess that was my signal to hurry up. There are wonderful people come in and testify, from veterinarians to citizens who had bad experiences with their animals that they got from puppy mills, from prosecutors to Keith from Animal Humane Society, who's an animal control officer that arrived on a number of these horrible situations. Really very powerful testimony. And then moving the bill through committee. Yeah, okay. Just me again? Okay. 2014 was a huge year. And I'm going to take this a little bit out of order. The MVMA, the Minnesota Veterinary Association, when they came on board and could really say that they supported the bill, that was a big deal. That was a really big deal for us because they were sort of neutral up to 2014. Speak Up Coalition, we've talked about, that was just tremendous, absolutely tremendous. Hundreds of people. We talked about the petitions. We talked about the other things that Speak Up, the Speak Up Coalition provided. We met. The Speak Up Coalition met regularly, and on Saturdays, many Saturday mornings, we met. Let's see. I would say one of the biggest pieces here is the Farmers Union. When the Farmers Union came on board and said that their members voted to support the dog and cat breeder legislation, that was huge, and that was very important for the ag committees and the committee chairs. That gave them comfort. That gave them, I'm going to use the word cover. I don't know that they necessarily needed cover, but I'm going to use it anyway. It gave them cover. Yes.
Did Farmers Union have any opposition prior? Any resistance?
Yeah, that was
I
more of the
can't remember if they were
slippery slope.
opposed. They weren't helpful. They weren't helpful. I don't remember them being officially opposed, but there were plenty of folks in the agricultural community that were. And so when the Farmers Union stepped forward and said, you know what, it's time to do this. We support good breeding facilities and good breeders. That was really, really, really key. And I think that's the piece that allowed us to get the hearings in the agricultural committees. Let's see. The Board of Animal Health, that was wonderful. Various breeders, but the key in my mind, between the Farmers Union and the gentleman up there on the right, I think there's a funny story about that. That was our coalition rally, and I remember that the discussion was, should we invite the governor? And my take on it, my advice was no, because we're going to need the governor at the end. And there's only so many times you can ask the governor to do something. I mean, he's got thousands of issues, right? He's got thousands of issues. So we didn't invite the governor, thanks to my advice. And so what happened was, a day or two before the rally, the governor found out about it. What?
Yeah, a couple hours before.
Okay, a couple hours. A couple hours before. The governor called and asked, is it okay if I come to the rally and speak? I said, yeah, that'll be fine. That'll be all right. So it was just amazing, and he did a great job, and I think the folks that were at that rally were very, very appreciative that the governor was there. Excuse me? Oh, the momentum continues. Meeting with stakeholders, I think we talked about extensive lobbying. I think we've talked about that as well. More committee hearings. This was interesting. We were very thankful. In 2014, we had a omnibus supplemental budget bill. Now, what the heck does that mean? It just means a big bill that they put a lot of stuff in. And so we were glad that we got put into that big bill, because that big bill is going to pass. Right? They're going to pass the big budget bill. Our concern at that point, though, was, would we be taken out of that? Would there be an amendment to strip us out? But the interesting thing, when we talk about the conference committee hearings, the day that they were wrapping up that big omnibus supplemental budget bill, we had been assured, we had passed in the House, we were assured that we were going to be in the bill. The bill was unveiled, and we were not in it. We were not in it. And we called Representative Lesh. He went to the Speaker, came back to me and said, what are you talking about? The Speaker says it's in the bill. I said, John, it's not in the bill. So he came running down to the hearing. Senator Marty came running down to the hearing.